Question 1. The monitoring system demonstrates a consistent increase in storage access latency and a slight uptick in I/O error rates over the past 24 hours, coinciding with a recent firmware update on a critical storage array. Which of the following approaches best represents a proactive risk assessment strategy aligned with regulatory compliance for storage delivery? Option A. Immediately roll back the firmware update and monitor for performance normalization. Option B. Analyze the specific latency and error rate metrics in conjunction with the firmware update's release notes and known compatibility issues to determine a causal link and potential impact on data integrity and availability. Option C. Escalate the issue to the storage vendor's support team, requesting an immediate investigation without providing any preliminary analysis. Option D. Focus solely on network performance metrics, assuming the storage array is functioning correctly due to its recent firmware update. The correct answer is A. Immediately roll back the firmware update and monitor for performance normalization. Explanation: scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires the Riverbed certified solutions professional to interpret complex performance data and assess potential risks to storage delivery without direct access to the underlying infrastructure. The challenge lies in distinguishing between transient anomalies and systemic issues that could impact service availability and data integrity, all while adhering to the strict regulatory framework governing storage delivery. The need for accurate risk assessment is paramount to prevent service disruptions, data loss, and potential regulatory noncompliance. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves correlating the observed performance degradation with known operational changes or potential external factors that could impact storage delivery. This aligns with best professional practice by employing a systematic, evidence-based methodology. Specifically, it requires the professional to leverage their understanding of the Riverbed platform's capabilities to analyze metrics such as latency, throughput, and error rates in the context of the established regulatory framework for storage delivery. This framework likely mandates proactive identification and mitigation of risks that could lead to data unavailability or compromise. By focusing on the root cause analysis and its potential impact on service-level agreements, SLAs, and compliance requirements, this approach ensures that remediation efforts are targeted and effective, thereby upholding the integrity of the storage delivery service and adhering to regulatory obligations. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to immediately escalate the issue to a higher support tier without conducting a preliminary analysis. This fails to meet professional standards because it bypasses the responsibility of the certified professional to perform initial diagnostics and risk assessment. Ethically, it represents a failure to apply due diligence. From a regulatory perspective, it could be seen as a delay in addressing a potential risk, which might be a breach of reporting or mitigation requirements. Another incorrect approach is to assume the issue is solely a network problem and focus solely on network troubleshooting tools. Network performance can impact storage delivery. This approach is flawed because it ignores the possibility of issues within the storage system itself or the applications accessing it. This narrow focus can lead to misdiagnosis and ineffective solutions, potentially violating regulatory requirements for comprehensive risk management and timely resolution of performance issues impacting data access. A third incorrect approach is to dismiss the observed anomalies as insignificant without further investigation, based on the assumption that they are within acceptable historical variance. This is professionally unsound as it neglects the potential for cumulative impact or the emergence of a new, critical issue. Ethically, it demonstrates a lack of diligence. Regulatory frameworks often require a proactive stance on risk identification, and ignoring potential warning signs could lead to a breach of compliance if these anomalies escalate into a service failure. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured approach to risk assessment. This involves 1. Understanding the regulatory landscape and its specific requirements for storage delivery. 2. Leveraging monitoring tools to gather comprehensive performance data. 3. Correlating observed data with known system configurations, recent changes, and potential external factors. 4. Identifying potential root causes and assessing their impact on service availability, data integrity, and compliance. 5. Prioritizing risks based on their severity and likelihood. 6. Developing and implementing targeted mitigation strategies. 7. Documenting all findings, actions, and outcomes. This systematic process ensures that decisions are informed, defensible, and aligned with both professional best practices and regulatory mandates. Question 2. Research into the implementation of a new high-performance storage delivery solution for a financial services firm reveals potential vulnerabilities related to data corruption during high-volume transactions and extended downtime during system updates. What is the most appropriate risk assessment approach for the Riverbed Certified Solutions professional to adopt? Option A. Focus the risk assessment on the potential for unauthorized access to data, neglecting the risks associated with data corruption and system downtime during routine operations. Option B. Conduct a comprehensive risk assessment that systematically identifies potential threats to data integrity and availability, analyzes their likelihood and impact, and develops appropriate mitigation strategies. Option C. Rely on vendor-provided documentation regarding the storage solution's resilience, assuming that any significant risks have already been addressed by the manufacturer. Option D. Prioritize the implementation of the new storage solution based solely on its projected performance gains, deferring any detailed risk assessment until after the system is fully operational. The correct answer is B. Conduct a comprehensive risk assessment that systematically identifies potential threats to data integrity and availability, analyzes their likelihood and impact, and develops appropriate mitigation strategies. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the Riverbed Certified Solutions Professional (RCSP) must balance the need for robust storage delivery performance with the inherent risks associated with data integrity and availability. The RCSP is tasked with implementing a new storage solution that, while offering performance benefits, introduces potential vulnerabilities. A thorough risk assessment is crucial to identify, analyze, and evaluate these vulnerabilities before they can impact the organization's operations or regulatory compliance. The correct approach, which involves a systematic identification of potential threats to data integrity and availability, an analysis of the likelihood and impact of these threats, and the development of mitigation strategies, represents best professional practice. This aligns with the principles of responsible IT management and the implicit requirements of maintaining secure and reliable data storage, which are foundational to many regulatory frameworks governing data handling and business continuity. By proactively addressing risks, the RCSP ensures that the implemented solution adheres to organizational policies and industry best practices for data protection and service availability. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on performance metrics without considering potential risks would be professionally unacceptable. This failure would constitute a breach of professional duty by neglecting the critical aspects of data security and availability. Such an oversight could lead to data loss, system downtime, and significant financial or reputational damage, potentially violating regulations that mandate data integrity and business continuity. Another incorrect approach, which involves deferring risk assessment to a later stage or relying on anecdotal evidence, is also professionally unsound. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a failure to adhere to established risk management methodologies. It exposes the organization to unforeseen threats and can result in non-compliance with regulatory requirements that necessitate proactive risk identification and management. Professionals should employ a structured decision-making process that begins with understanding the project's objectives and constraints. This is followed by a comprehensive risk assessment phase, where potential risks are identified, analyzed for their impact and likelihood, and then prioritized. Based on this analysis, appropriate mitigation strategies are developed and implemented. Continuous monitoring and review of risks are essential throughout the project lifecycle and beyond. This systematic approach ensures that all critical aspects, including performance, security, and compliance, are adequately addressed. Question 3. The control framework reveals a critical performance degradation in the primary storage delivery network, impacting application response times. A junior engineer suggests immediately adjusting several network device configurations based on a forum post discussing similar symptoms, without performing a full diagnostic analysis or consulting with the infrastructure team. Which approach best aligns with professional best practices for a Riverbed Certified Solutions Professional Storage Delivery Exam candidate? Option A. Immediately implement the configuration changes suggested in the forum post to address the symptoms quickly, as performance issues require rapid intervention. Option B. Conduct a comprehensive root cause analysis gather detailed performance metrics, consult with relevant stakeholders, and then propose a solution based on verified findings and best practices. Option C. Escalate the issue to a third-party vendor for an immediate fix, without attempting any internal investigation or analysis. Option D. Rely on the junior engineer's suggestion and apply the proposed configuration changes, assuming their research is accurate and sufficient. Correct answer is B. Conduct a comprehensive root cause analysis, gather detailed performance metrics, consult with relevant stakeholders, and then propose a solution based on verified findings and best practices. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate need for performance improvements with the long-term implications of architectural decisions, all within the context of Riverbed's storage delivery solutions and the regulatory framework governing their implementation. The pressure to demonstrate quick wins can lead to short-sighted solutions that may not be sustainable, scalable, or compliant with evolving industry standards and potential future regulatory scrutiny. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any proposed solution not only addresses the current issue, but also aligns with best practices for data integrity, security, and operational efficiency, as defined by the Riverbed Certified Solutions Professional Storage Delivery Exam Scope. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough understanding of the existing environment and the root cause of the performance degradation before proposing a solution. This aligns with the principles of responsible technology deployment, emphasizing due diligence and a holistic view. By engaging stakeholders and documenting findings, the professional adheres to principles of transparency and accountability, which are implicitly expected in professional certifications. This methodical approach minimizes the risk of introducing new problems or violating any unstated but implied best practices related to system stability and data handling, which are critical in storage delivery. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on immediate, unverified configuration changes without understanding the underlying cause is professionally unacceptable. This could lead to unintended consequences, such as data corruption, performance regressions in other areas, or security vulnerabilities, all of which could have significant operational and reputational repercussions. Such an approach fails to demonstrate a comprehensive understanding of the system's architecture and the potential ripple effects of modifications, contravening the expected level of expertise for a certified professional. Another incorrect approach that involves implementing a solution based on anecdotal evidence or a single user's complaint, without broader validation or impact assessment, is also professionally unsound. This bypasses essential diagnostic steps and risks misinterpreting the problem, leading to an ineffective or even detrimental solution. It demonstrates a lack of rigor and a failure to apply systematic problem-solving methodologies, which are fundamental to professional competence in complex IT environments. A third incorrect approach that suggests deploying a new, unproven technology without adequate testing or integration planning is equally problematic. This introduces significant risk, potentially destabilizing the existing storage infrastructure and jeopardizing data availability and integrity. It neglects the critical phases of proof of concept, pilot testing, and phased rollout, which are essential for ensuring the successful and secure integration of new components into a live environment. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Problem identification and scoping. Clearly define the observed performance issue and its scope. 2. Information gathering. Collect all relevant data, logs, and configuration details. 3. Root cause analysis. Systematically investigate potential causes, ruling out possibilities. 4. Stakeholder consultation. Engage with relevant teams and users to understand their perspectives and requirements. 5. Solution design and evaluation. Propose potential solutions, assessing their feasibility, impact, and alignment with best practices. 6. Testing and validation. Rigorously test proposed solutions in a controlled environment. 7. Implementation and monitoring. Deploy the chosen solution with careful planning and continuous monitoring. 8. Documentation and review. Document all steps, decisions, and outcomes and conduct post-implementation reviews. Question 4. The evaluation methodology shows a need to assess the effectiveness of a deployed Riverbed storage delivery solution. Which approach best demonstrates a comprehensive and professionally responsible evaluation of its success? Option A. A focus on identifying and resolving any reported performance bottlenecks or user complaints as they arise, without a proactive assessment of the overall system health. Option B, the implementation of the newest available features and upgrades for the storage delivery solution to ensure it is utilizing the latest technological advancements. Option C, a detailed analysis of the solution's throughput and latency metrics, comparing them against vendor-provided benchmarks to confirm optimal performance. Option D, a thorough review of the solution's architecture, configuration, and operational performance against industry best practices for data resilience, accessibility, and security, ensuring alignment with business objectives. The correct answer is D, a thorough review of the solution's architecture, configuration, and operational performance against industry best practices for data resilience, accessibility, and security, ensuring alignment with business objectives. Explanation: scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge in evaluating the effectiveness of storage delivery solutions within the Riverbed ecosystem, specifically concerning the 599-01 exam's focus. The core difficulty lies in moving beyond superficial performance metrics to a holistic assessment that aligns with best practices and regulatory expectations for data integrity and accessibility. Professionals must demonstrate a nuanced understanding of how various components interact and how their performance impacts the overall business objectives, all while adhering to the implicit requirements of professional conduct and diligence expected in a certified role. The challenge is amplified by the need to avoid purely quantitative analysis and instead focus on the qualitative implications of performance and configuration choices. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach emphasizes a comprehensive review of the storage delivery solution's architecture, configuration, and operational performance against established best practices for data resilience, accessibility, and security. This involves not just measuring throughput or latency, but understanding how these metrics translate to user experience, business continuity, and compliance with any relevant data governance policies. It requires a deep dive into the interplay between Riverbed storage delivery technologies and the underlying infrastructure, ensuring that the solution is not only performing adequately, but is also robust, scalable, and aligned with the organization's strategic goals. This aligns with the professional responsibility of a certified solutions professional to deliver solutions that are not just functional, but also optimized for long-term success and risk mitigation. Incorrect approaches analysis. Focusing solely on raw performance metrics without considering the context of data integrity and accessibility represents a significant professional failing. Such an approach ignores the fundamental purpose of storage delivery to ensure data is available and usable when needed. This can lead to solutions that appear fast but are brittle, prone to data corruption, or fail to meet critical uptime requirements, thereby violating the implicit ethical obligation to provide reliable and secure solutions. Prioritizing the implementation of the latest features or technologies without a thorough assessment of their impact on the existing environment and business needs is another critical error. This can result in unnecessary complexity, integration issues, and potential performance degradation, demonstrating a lack of due diligence and a failure to act in the best interest of the client or organization. It suggests a superficial understanding of the solution's lifecycle and its integration into a broader IT strategy. Adopting a reactive troubleshooting approach, addressing issues only as they arise without proactive performance monitoring and preventative maintenance, is also professionally unsound. This indicates a lack of foresight and a failure to implement robust operational procedures, which can lead to prolonged downtime, data loss, and increased costs. It falls short of the expected standard of care for a certified professional responsible for maintaining critical storage infrastructure. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a systematic and holistic evaluation methodology. This involves understanding the business requirements, assessing the current infrastructure, designing a solution that meets those requirements, and then continuously monitoring and optimizing its performance. When evaluating existing solutions, the process should mirror this lifecycle, focusing on alignment with business objectives, adherence to best practices for data management and security, and the overall resilience and efficiency of the storage delivery system. A critical self-assessment of potential risks and the development of mitigation strategies should be integral to this process. Question 5. Which approach would be most aligned with best practices for investigating a reported performance degradation in a Riverbed storage delivery solution when sensitive customer data is potentially involved? Option A. Rely on user reports and anecdotal evidence to infer the nature of the performance issue, making adjustments to the storage delivery configuration based on common troubleshooting heuristics. Option B. Access and analyze raw storage logs directly from the storage devices themselves, bypassing the Riverbed solution's reporting mechanisms to gather more granular, real-time data. Option C. Immediately initiate a deep packet inspection of all traffic traversing the storage delivery solution, prioritizing speed to identify the root cause, and document findings internally for later review. Option D. Consult with the organization's data governance and legal teams to understand data access restrictions and reporting requirements. Then proceed with a phased, authorized data collection and analysis plan. Correct answer is C. Immediately initiate a deep packet inspection of all traffic traversing the storage delivery solution, prioritizing speed to identify the root cause, and document findings internally for later review. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate need for data visibility with the long-term implications of data governance and compliance within the Riverbed storage delivery framework. Core tension lies between rapid troubleshooting and adherence to established protocols for data handling and reporting, particularly when sensitive information might be involved. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any solution implemented not only resolves the immediate issue, but also aligns with the organization's risk appetite and regulatory obligations. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a systematic, documented, and compliant method for data analysis by engaging the appropriate internal stakeholders, including compliance and legal teams, and adhering to established data access and retention policies. The professional ensures that the troubleshooting process is conducted ethically and legally. This proactive engagement mitigates the risk of unauthorized data access or disclosure, which could lead to significant regulatory penalties and reputational damage. It also fosters a culture of accountability and transparency in data handling. An incorrect approach that involves bypassing established data access controls or directly accessing sensitive data without proper authorization is professionally unacceptable. This action directly violates data privacy regulations and internal governance policies, potentially leading to breaches of confidentiality and noncompliance with data protection laws. Such a shortcut, while seemingly expedient, creates a significant legal and ethical liability for the individual and the organization. Another incorrect approach, such as relying solely on anecdotal evidence or unverified reports without a structured data analysis, fails to meet the professional standard of due diligence. This can lead to misdiagnosis of the problem, ineffective solutions, and wasted resources, undermining the credibility of the IT department and potentially causing further operational disruptions. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the problem's scope, an assessment of potential data sensitivity, and a thorough review of relevant internal policies and external regulations. For taking any action, professionals should consult with their immediate supervisor and relevant departments, e.g., IT security, legal compliance, to ensure alignment with organizational standards and legal requirements. Prioritizing a documented, auditable, and compliant methodology over expediency is crucial for maintaining professional integrity and safeguarding the organization. Question 6. The review process indicates that a proposed storage delivery optimization strategy for a financial services client aims to significantly reduce latency for critical transaction data. However, the strategy involves utilizing a new, less scrutinized third-party caching mechanism that has not undergone a formal risk assessment against the specific data residency and audit trail requirements mandated by the relevant financial regulatory bodies. Which of the following represents the most professionally responsible course of action? Option A. Halt the implementation of the caching mechanism and initiate a comprehensive regulatory compliance assessment, including data residency verification, audit trail capabilities, and access control validation, before proceeding with any optimization that impacts critical transaction data. Option B. Implement the caching mechanism with a temporary, less stringent data masking solution, with the intention of upgrading to a fully compliant solution once the performance benefits are proven and resources become available. Option C. Proceed with the optimization strategy after confirming the caching mechanism meets general industry security standards, deferring a detailed regulatory compliance review until after implementation to avoid delaying performance gains. Option D. Recommend an alternative optimization strategy that relies on existing, fully compliant infrastructure, even if it offers slightly lower performance improvements, to ensure immediate adherence to all regulatory mandates. Correct answer is C. Proceed with the optimization strategy after confirming the caching mechanism meets general industry security standards, deferring a detailed regulatory compliance review until after implementation to avoid delaying performance gains. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between optimizing storage delivery performance and adhering to the strict regulatory framework governing data handling and security, as defined by the 599-01 Riverbed Certified Solutions Professional Storage Delivery Exam Syllabus. The need to balance efficiency with compliance requires a nuanced understanding of both technical capabilities and legal obligations. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a comprehensive, risk-based evaluation that aligns technical solutions with established regulatory requirements. This involves a thorough assessment of data sensitivity, access controls, and audit trails, ensuring that any proposed storage delivery optimization does not inadvertently compromise data integrity or violate data privacy regulations. Adherence to the principle of least privilege and robust security protocols are paramount. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on performance metrics without considering regulatory implications would fail to meet professional standards. Such an approach could lead to the implementation of solutions that bypass necessary security controls or data segregation, thereby violating data protection laws and potentially exposing sensitive information. This constitutes a significant regulatory failure, as it prioritizes technical expediency over legal and ethical responsibilities. Another incorrect approach might involve implementing a solution based on outdated or incomplete regulatory knowledge. This would be a failure of due diligence and professional competence, as it demonstrates a lack of commitment to staying abreast of evolving legal landscapes. The ethical failure lies in providing advice or implementing solutions that are not compliant, potentially exposing the organization to legal penalties and reputational damage. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a structured, multidisciplinary approach. First, clearly define the regulatory scope and applicable laws. Second, conduct a thorough risk assessment, identifying potential compliance gaps. Third, evaluate technical solutions against both performance objectives and regulatory mandates. Fourth, consult with legal and compliance experts when uncertainties arise. Finally, document all decisions and justifications to ensure transparency and accountability. Question 7. The analysis reveals that a financial services organization is experiencing intermittent latency issues with its critical customer data storage delivery. The IT team is considering several strategies to address this, but a clear, best practice-aligned approach is needed to ensure both performance improvements and regulatory compliance. Which of the following represents the most professionally sound and effective strategy for the Riverbed Certified Solutions professional to recommend? Option A. Prioritize the implementation of a new, unproven storage technology that promises significant speed increases, without a thorough evaluation of its compatibility with existing Riverbed solutions or its impact on data integrity. Option B. Rely on informal feedback from other IT professionals in similar industries to implement a set of commonly used Riverbed configurations without specific analysis of the organization's environment. Option C. Immediately deploy the newest Riverbed storage acceleration feature advertised by the vendor, assuming it will resolve all latency issues based on general marketing claims. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive performance baseline analysis of the current storage delivery infrastructure using Riverbed tools, identify specific bottlenecks and deviations from documented best practices, and propose targeted optimizations based on this data. The correct answer is D. Conduct a comprehensive performance baseline analysis of the current storage delivery infrastructure using Riverbed tools, identify specific bottlenecks and deviations from documented best practices, and propose targeted optimizations based on this data. Explanation. The analysis reveals a common challenge in storage delivery environments, ensuring optimal performance while adhering to evolving best practices and regulatory expectations. Professionals must balance technical implementation with an understanding of how their choices impact data integrity, accessibility, and compliance. The scenario is professionally challenging because it requires not just technical proficiency in Riverbed solutions, but also a strategic understanding of how these solutions align with broader organizational goals and industry standards, particularly concerning data handling and delivery. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a holistic, data-driven evaluation of the current storage delivery architecture. This involves a systematic review of performance metrics, configuration settings, and operational logs against established Riverbed best practices and relevant industry guidelines for data storage and delivery. This methodical process ensures that any proposed changes are informed, validated, and demonstrably improve efficiency and reliability without introducing new risks or violating compliance mandates. It aligns with the professional obligation to maintain systems that are not only performant, but also secure and compliant with any applicable data governance frameworks. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on implementing the latest Riverbed feature, without a thorough assessment of its impact on the existing environment, fails to uphold professional standards. This could lead to unintended performance degradation, increased complexity, or even security vulnerabilities, potentially violating implicit or explicit service level agreements and data handling policies. Another incorrect approach, which relies on anecdotal evidence or vendor marketing without independent validation, risks misinterpreting the true benefits and drawbacks of a particular solution. This can result in suboptimal configurations or the adoption of technologies that do not genuinely address the specific challenges of the organization, thereby failing to meet the professional duty of care. A third incorrect approach, neglecting to document changes and their rationale, undermines transparency and accountability, making it difficult to troubleshoot issues or demonstrate compliance during audits. This lack of documentation is a significant professional failing, hindering knowledge transfer and future system management. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, clearly define the problem or objective. Second, gather comprehensive data and metrics from the existing environment. Third, research and evaluate potential solutions against documented best practices and organizational requirements. Fourth, conduct pilot testing or simulations where feasible. Fifth, implement changes methodically with robust documentation. And finally, monitor and validate the outcomes. This iterative and evidence-based process ensures that decisions are sound, defensible, and contribute to the overall success of the storage delivery infrastructure. Question 8. Governance review demonstrates that several critical business applications are experiencing intermittent and unpredictable latency, impacting user productivity and data processing. Initial reports suggest the issue is related to the storage delivery infrastructure, but the exact point of failure is unclear. The IT department needs to identify the root cause and implement a solution that minimizes disruption and adheres to the organization's established IT governance framework and any relevant data access regulations. Option A. Focus solely on optimizing application code and database queries, as application-level inefficiencies are often the primary contributors to perceived storage latency. Option B. Immediately initiate a phased replacement of all storage array controllers across the affected infrastructure, assuming hardware degradation is the primary driver of the latency. Option C. Deploy a comprehensive suite of Riverbed storage optimization and network performance monitoring tools to analyze traffic patterns, identify bottlenecks across the storage network and storage arrays, and correlate performance metrics with application behavior to pinpoint the root cause of latency. Option D. Implement a broad network configuration change, such as increasing buffer sizes on all network switches in the storage fabric to alleviate potential network congestion. The correct answer is C. Deploy a comprehensive suite of Riverbed storage optimization and network performance monitoring tools to analyze traffic patterns, identify bottlenecks across the storage network and storage arrays, and correlate performance metrics with application behavior to pinpoint the root cause of latency. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in storage delivery environments where performance degradation can impact critical business operations. The challenge lies in accurately identifying the root cause of latency within a complex, multi-layered storage infrastructure, especially when the symptoms are intermittent and affect multiple applications. The professional must navigate the interplay between network, storage hardware, and application configurations, ensuring that any proposed solution aligns with established governance and compliance frameworks. The pressure to resolve the issue quickly without introducing further risk or violating service-level agreements, SLAs, adds to the complexity. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic, data-driven investigation using Riverbed storage delivery optimization tools. This method aligns with best practices for IT service management and governance by prioritizing evidence-based decision-making. Specifically, leveraging tools like Riverbed Steel Fusion or Steel Central to analyze traffic patterns, identify bottlenecks at the network or storage layer, and correlate performance metrics with application behavior is crucial. This approach ensures that remediation efforts are targeted, minimizing downtime and preventing recurrence, thereby upholding the organization's commitment to service availability and data integrity, as mandated by internal governance policies and potentially industry-specific regulations concerning data access and performance. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach would be to immediately assume a storage hardware failure and initiate a costly and time-consuming hardware replacement without sufficient diagnostic data. This violates professional due diligence and governance principles by not following a structured troubleshooting methodology. It risks unnecessary expenditure and disruption, potentially leading to non-compliance with budget controls and procurement policies. Ethically, it demonstrates a lack of responsible resource management. Another incorrect approach would be to focus solely on application-level tuning without investigating the underlying infrastructure. While application issues can cause latency, ignoring potential network or storage bottlenecks means the root cause might persist, leading to repeated performance problems and potential breaches of SLAs. This approach fails to adhere to a holistic IT governance framework that mandates comprehensive root cause analysis. It also risks violating data protection regulations if the performance issues lead to data unavailability or corruption. A third incorrect approach would be to implement a broad, unverified network configuration change across the entire storage fabric in an attempt to fix the latency. This is a high-risk strategy that bypasses proper change management procedures, a cornerstone of IT governance. Such a change could have unintended consequences, exacerbating the problem or impacting other critical systems, leading to potential regulatory noncompliance related to system stability and data integrity. It also demonstrates a failure to follow ethical principles of minimizing harm and acting with professional competence. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing such a scenario should employ a structured problem-solving framework. This begins with clearly defining the problem and its impact, followed by gathering relevant data using appropriate diagnostic tools. The next step is to hypothesize potential causes, prioritizing those that can be investigated systematically. Solutions should then be developed, tested in a controlled environment where possible, and implemented with proper change control procedures. Continuous monitoring and validation are essential to confirm resolution and prevent recurrence. This methodical approach ensures that decisions are informed, risks are mitigated, and compliance with governance and regulatory requirements is maintained. Question 9. Risk assessment procedures indicate a need to enhance visibility into the performance and potential security vulnerabilities of the organization's distributed storage delivery network. The primary objective is to identify and address latency issues and unauthorized access attempts without compromising the confidentiality or integrity of the data being stored and transmitted. Considering the strict regulatory framework governing data handling and privacy within this jurisdiction, which of the following approaches best aligns with professional best practices and regulatory compliance? Option A. Implement network traffic analysis tools that capture metadata, packet headers, and performance metrics related to storage traffic, focusing on identifying patterns of latency and potential anomalies without inspecting the payload content of data packets. Option B. Rely solely on endpoint-based logging from individual storage devices, assuming that aggregated logs will provide sufficient insight into network-wide performance and security events. Option C. Postpone any implementation of monitoring solutions until a complete data classification and anonymization process for all stored data is finalized and approved by the legal department. Option D. Deploy Deep Packet Inspection, DPI, solutions capable of analyzing the full content of all data packets traversing the storage network to identify specific types of sensitive data and potential policy violations. Correct answer is A. Implement network traffic analysis tools that capture metadata, packet headers, and performance metrics related to storage traffic, focusing on identifying patterns of latency and potential anomalies without inspecting the payload content of data packets. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate need for data visibility with the long-term implications of data integrity and compliance. The Riverbed Certified Solutions Professional is tasked with ensuring that storage delivery solutions are not only performant, but also adhere to the regulatory framework governing data handling and access within the specified jurisdiction. The core of the challenge lies in selecting an approach that provides necessary insights without compromising the security or auditability of the data, which are paramount under the relevant regulations. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a phased implementation of monitoring tools, starting with non-intrusive methods that capture metadata and performance metrics without directly accessing sensitive data payloads. This aligns with the principle of least privilege and data minimization, which are often mandated by regulatory frameworks to protect sensitive information. By focusing on network traffic analysis and performance indicators, the solution can identify bottlenecks and anomalies in storage delivery without violating data privacy or confidentiality requirements. This proactive and compliant stance ensures that the organization can meet its operational goals while remaining within legal and ethical boundaries. An incorrect approach that involves directly capturing and analyzing the content of data packets traversing the storage network would represent a significant regulatory and ethical failure. Such an action could violate data privacy laws, such as those requiring explicit consent for data access or mandating specific security controls for sensitive information. It could also breach contractual obligations with clients or partners regarding data confidentiality. Furthermore, storing or processing raw data payloads without proper anonymization or encryption would expose the organization to substantial risks of data breaches and noncompliance penalties. Another incorrect approach, which is to delay the implementation of any monitoring solution until a comprehensive data classification and governance policy is fully established, while seemingly cautious, can also be professionally problematic. While data governance is crucial, an indefinite delay in implementing necessary visibility tools can hinder the ability to detect performance issues, security threats, or compliance deviations in real time. This inaction could lead to prolonged periods of suboptimal performance, increased risk of undetected breaches, and potential noncompliance due to a lack of oversight, ultimately failing the professional duty to maintain a secure and efficient storage delivery environment. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a thorough understanding of the applicable regulatory landscape, a risk-based assessment of potential monitoring strategies, and a commitment to implementing solutions that balance operational needs with compliance requirements. Professionals should always seek to understand the why behind data access and monitoring, ensuring that any chosen method is the least intrusive necessary to achieve the desired outcome. Prioritizing solutions that offer granular control, robust security features, and clear audit trails is essential for maintaining trust and ensuring long-term compliance. Question 10. During the evaluation of a new Riverbed storage delivery solution for a financial services firm operating under strict data residency and access control regulations, what is the most prudent implementation strategy to ensure both optimal performance and unwavering compliance? Option A. Prioritize immediate deployment to achieve maximum performance gains, deferring detailed compliance validation until after the initial rollout is complete. Option B. Implement the solution across all critical systems simultaneously after initial vendor testing, with post-implementation performance monitoring. Option C. Deploy the solution in a staged manner, starting with non-critical systems, followed by rigorous validation and performance testing before proceeding to more sensitive environments, with continuous compliance checks at each stage. Option D. Implement the solution only on a limited set of test systems, focusing solely on performance benchmarks without engaging compliance teams until a later phase. The correct answer is B. Implement the solution across all critical systems simultaneously after initial vendor testing, with post-implementation performance monitoring. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent complexity of implementing storage delivery solutions in a regulated environment where performance and compliance are paramount. The need to balance rapid deployment with thorough validation, especially when dealing with sensitive data or critical business operations, requires meticulous planning and execution. Professionals must navigate potential conflicts between project timelines and the imperative to ensure the solution meets all technical specifications and regulatory mandates. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a phased, controlled rollout. This methodology allows for granular testing and validation at each stage, minimizing the risk of widespread disruption or non-compliance. By isolating and addressing issues in smaller, manageable segments, it ensures that the storage delivery solution is not only performant, but also adheres strictly to the regulatory framework governing data handling and delivery within the specified jurisdiction. This systematic validation is crucial for demonstrating due diligence and maintaining auditability. An incorrect approach that involves a full, unvalidated deployment before comprehensive testing would fail to meet regulatory requirements by introducing an unacceptable level of risk. This could lead to data integrity issues, performance degradation impacting service delivery, or even breaches of data privacy regulations, all of which carry significant legal and financial penalties. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on performance metrics without considering the underlying data integrity and security protocols, would be ethically unsound and likely violate regulations that mandate robust data protection measures. Furthermore, an approach that bypasses established change management procedures, even if seemingly efficient, undermines the controlled environment necessary for regulatory compliance and introduces an unacceptable risk of unintended consequences. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that emphasizes risk assessment, phased implementation, continuous monitoring, and thorough documentation. This involves understanding the specific regulatory landscape, identifying potential failure points, and designing a deployment strategy that mitigates these risks. Prioritizing validation and compliance over speed, while still striving for efficiency, is key to successful and responsible implementation. Question 11. Benchmark analysis indicates that following the implementation of a new Riverbed-based storage delivery optimization solution, critical financial trading applications are experiencing intermittent but significant latency spikes. The solution was intended to improve performance and resilience. Given the strict regulatory environment governing financial data access and transaction integrity, what is the most appropriate initial course of action to diagnose and resolve this issue? Option A. Implement a series of broad, untested configuration adjustments across the entire storage network to see if any resolve the latency. Option B. Immediately initiate a rollback of the new Riverbed solution to the previous configuration to restore application performance. Option C. Leverage Riverbed's integrated performance monitoring and analysis tools to conduct a comprehensive, end-to-end assessment of the storage delivery path, correlating application behavior with network and storage metrics before making any changes. Option D. Focus exclusively on reconfiguring the underlying storage array hardware, assuming it is the sole point of failure. The correct answer is B. Immediately initiate a rollback of the new Riverbed solution to the previous configuration to restore application performance. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common implementation challenge where a new storage delivery solution, designed to enhance performance and reliability, is experiencing unexpected latency issues post-deployment. The challenge lies in accurately diagnosing the root cause without disrupting ongoing business operations, which are critical for the financial services sector. The pressure to resolve the issue quickly, coupled with the need to maintain compliance with stringent data integrity and availability regulations, makes this a high-stakes situation requiring careful judgment. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic, phased investigation that prioritizes non-disruptive diagnostic techniques. This aligns with best professional practices for IT service management and regulatory compliance. Specifically, leveraging Riverbed's performance monitoring tools to analyze traffic patterns, identify bottlenecks at the application, network, and storage layers, and correlate these findings with the new solution's configuration is crucial. This methodical approach ensures that any corrective actions are data-driven and minimize the risk of further service degradation or data loss, thereby upholding the regulatory requirement for continuous service availability and data integrity. Incorrect approach is analysis. An approach that immediately suggests a rollback without thorough analysis is professionally unsound. This bypasses the opportunity to understand the underlying cause, potentially leading to repeated issues if the problem is systemic. Ethically, it fails to demonstrate due diligence in troubleshooting and could be seen as a premature abandonment of the implemented solution without sufficient justification. From a regulatory perspective, it risks prolonged downtime or performance degradation if the rollback itself is not seamless, potentially violating service-level agreements and data availability mandates. Another incorrect approach would be to focus solely on the storage hardware without considering the entire delivery path. This narrow focus ignores the possibility that the latency could originate from network congestion, application misconfigurations, or integration issues with the new Riverbed solution. Such an approach is inefficient and could lead to misdiagnosis, wasting valuable time and resources. It also fails to meet the professional standard of comprehensive problem-solving, potentially leading to a failure to meet regulatory obligations for timely issue resolution. Finally, implementing broad, unvalidated configuration changes across the storage environment without a clear hypothesis or testing plan is a high-risk strategy. This can introduce new, unforeseen problems and make it harder to pinpoint the original cause. It demonstrates a lack of structured troubleshooting methodology and could lead to significant service disruption, directly contravening regulatory requirements for stability and reliability. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured, evidence-based approach to troubleshooting. This involves 1. Clearly defining the problem and its impact. 2. Formulating hypotheses based on initial observations and system knowledge. 3. Prioritizing diagnostic steps that are least likely to cause disruption. 4. Utilizing appropriate tools like Riverbeds to gather data and validate hypotheses. 5. Implementing changes incrementally and testing thoroughly after each change. 6. Documenting all findings and actions. This systematic process ensures efficient problem resolution while adhering to professional standards and regulatory obligations. Question 12. Stakeholder feedback indicates a desire to bypass certain data validation checks during the initial implementation of a new Riverbed storage delivery solution to accelerate deployment and meet an aggressive go-live deadline. They believe these checks are overly burdensome and not critical for their immediate operational needs. Option A. Implement a simplified, less rigorous validation process that partially addresses the stakeholders' concerns for speed, but does not fully comply with the established regulatory framework. Option B. Conduct a detailed technical assessment of the proposed bypass, evaluating its impact on data integrity, security, and auditability against the relevant regulatory framework. Propose a phased implementation plan that addresses the stakeholders' concerns, while ensuring compliance and recommending alternative methods for validation post-deployment if necessary. Option C. Immediately implement the bypass as requested by the stakeholders to meet the deadline, documenting the request and the potential risks for future review. Option D. Inform stakeholders that their request cannot be accommodated due to strict regulatory requirements and proceed with the full, standard validation process without offering any alternative solutions or explanations. The correct answer is B. Conduct a detailed technical assessment of the proposed bypass, evaluating its impact on data integrity, security, and auditability against the relevant regulatory framework. Propose a phased implementation plan that addresses the stakeholders' concerns, while ensuring compliance and recommending alternative methods for validation post-deployment if necessary. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common implementation challenge where initial stakeholder feedback, often driven by perceived immediate needs or a misunderstanding of underlying technical constraints, conflicts with the optimal technical solution. The challenge lies in balancing stakeholder expectations with the practical realities of achieving robust and compliant storage delivery. The pressure to deliver quickly can lead to shortcuts that compromise long-term stability, security, or regulatory adherence. Professionals must navigate this by demonstrating technical expertise, clear communication, and a commitment to best practices, rather than simply acquiescing to potentially flawed demands. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough technical assessment to validate the stakeholder feedback against the established regulatory framework and the capabilities of the Riverbed storage delivery solution. This includes analyzing the proposed changes for potential impacts on data integrity, access controls, performance, and auditability, all of which are critical under the exam's implied regulatory context, likely focusing on data protection, security, and availability standards. By proposing a phased implementation that addresses the core concerns while adhering to best practices and regulatory requirements, the professional demonstrates a commitment to a secure, compliant, and sustainable solution. This approach prioritizes risk mitigation and ensures that the implementation aligns with the organization's overall IT strategy and compliance obligations, representing best professional practice. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing the stakeholder's request without a thorough technical validation poses significant regulatory and ethical risks. This could lead to the introduction of vulnerabilities that violate data protection regulations, compromise data integrity, or create audit trails that are insufficient for compliance reporting. For example, bypassing established security protocols to expedite access could violate data privacy laws and lead to severe penalties. Similarly, implementing a solution that does not meet performance or availability requirements could breach service-level agreements, SLAs, and potentially violate industry-specific regulations governing data accessibility. Failing to document the rationale behind deviations from standard procedures or best practices also creates an ethical failure, as it hinders accountability and transparency. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured decision-making process that begins with understanding the stakeholder's underlying business need. This is followed by a comprehensive technical evaluation of the proposed solution, assessing its feasibility, risks, and alignment with regulatory requirements and organizational policies. If the proposed solution deviates from best practices or regulatory mandates, the professional must clearly articulate the risks and propose alternative compliant solutions. Effective communication, backed by technical evidence and a clear understanding of the regulatory landscape, is crucial for guiding stakeholders towards the most appropriate and responsible course of action. This process ensures that decisions are informed, defensible, and prioritize both business objectives and compliance. Question 13. Regulatory review indicates that a financial services firm is experiencing significant latency in its remote office storage access, impacting critical trading operations. The IT team proposes implementing a new Riverbed steelhead solution to accelerate this access. However, the firm operates under strict financial regulations, requiring immutable audit trails for all data access and modification, as well as guaranteed data integrity. The proposed implementation involves a significant change to the data path and caching mechanisms. Which of the following implementation approaches best balances the need for improved storage delivery performance with the stringent regulatory requirements for data integrity and auditability? Option A. Configure the Riverbed steelhead solution to maximize data compression and deduplication ratios to achieve the highest possible performance improvements, with a plan to address audit trail discrepancies if they arise during future regulatory reviews. Option B. Integrate the Riverbed steelhead solution by directly modifying the core storage infrastructure without prior consultation with the legal and compliance departments, assuming that performance improvements will inherently satisfy regulatory oversight. Option C. Deploy the Riverbed steelhead solution across all remote offices immediately to achieve the fastest possible performance gains, relying on existing general IT security protocols to ensure data integrity and auditability. Option D. Implement the Riverbed steelhead solution in a phased approach, starting with a pilot group, and conduct thorough pre- and post-implementation validation of data integrity and audit log completeness. Document all configuration changes and ensure that the solution's logging capabilities are configured to meet regulatory standards for immutability and retention. Correct answer is D. Implement the Riverbed steelhead solution in a phased approach, starting with a pilot group, and conduct thorough pre- and post-implementation validation of data integrity and audit log completeness. Document all configuration changes and ensure that the solution's logging capabilities are configured to meet regulatory standards for immutability and retention. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between optimizing storage delivery performance and adhering to strict regulatory compliance, particularly concerning data integrity and auditability. The Riverbed Certified Solutions Professional Storage Delivery exam focuses on ensuring efficient and reliable data transfer, but this must always be balanced against legal and ethical obligations. The core challenge lies in implementing solutions that enhance performance without compromising the integrity of data or the ability to demonstrate compliance with relevant regulations. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a phased, risk-assessed implementation that includes thorough validation and documentation. This aligns with regulatory expectations for controlled change management and demonstrates due diligence in ensuring that performance enhancements do not introduce vulnerabilities or compliance risks. Specifically, it addresses the need for auditable proof of system behavior and data integrity post-implementation, which is a cornerstone of many regulatory frameworks governing data storage and delivery. An incorrect approach that bypasses formal validation and documentation processes would be professionally unacceptable. This failure would violate principles of good governance and could lead to significant regulatory penalties if data integrity issues or performance anomalies arise that cannot be explained or rectified due to a lack of traceable changes. Such an approach demonstrates a disregard for audit trails and the fundamental requirement to prove system reliability and compliance. Another incorrect approach that focuses solely on performance metrics without considering the impact on data security or access controls would also be professionally unsound. This oversight could inadvertently create compliance gaps, such as unauthorized data exposure or breaches of data privacy regulations, even if storage delivery speeds improve. The ethical failure here is prioritizing technical gains over the fundamental duty to protect sensitive information and adhere to data governance policies. A third incorrect approach that involves making significant configuration changes without consulting relevant stakeholders, such as legal or compliance officers, is also problematic. This lack of collaboration can lead to the implementation of solutions that, while technically sound, violate specific regulatory mandates or internal policies that these stakeholders are responsible for upholding. The professional failure is in operating in a silo, neglecting the broader organizational and legal context of storage delivery systems. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a comprehensive risk assessment that considers technical, operational, and regulatory implications. Before implementing any changes, professionals must identify potential compliance risks, consult relevant regulatory guidelines and internal policies, and engage with all affected departments. A phased rollout with rigorous testing, validation, and detailed documentation is crucial. Post-implementation monitoring and regular audits are also essential to ensure ongoing compliance and performance. Question 14. Stakeholder feedback indicates that the current Riverbed storage delivery solution is not meeting perceived performance expectations for critical applications, leading to concerns about data access latency. The project team is under pressure to implement a rapid change. What is the most professionally responsible approach to address this feedback within the context of the 599-01 Riverbed Certified Solutions Professional Storage Delivery Exams Regulatory Framework? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive performance analysis of the existing Riverbed deployment, correlating observed latency with application behavior and network conditions, and then propose a targeted optimization strategy that aligns with the exam's jurisdiction's data handling and security regulations. Option B. Employ a completely new, unproven storage delivery technology that promises higher performance, overriding the existing Riverbed solution, to address the feedback without detailed analysis of its compliance with the exam's jurisdiction's regulations. Option C. Advise stakeholders that their perception of performance is subjective and proceed with the originally planned implementation phase, as the current architecture is technically sound according to initial design documents. Option D. Immediately implement a workaround solution suggested by a senior stakeholder, such as increasing cache sizes significantly, without further technical validation, to alleviate the perceived latency issue quickly. The correct answer is A. Conduct a comprehensive performance analysis of the existing Riverbed deployment, correlating observed latency with application behavior and network conditions, and then propose a targeted optimization strategy that aligns with the exam's jurisdiction's data handling and security regulations. Explanation: scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common implementation challenge where initial stakeholder feedback, often driven by perceived immediate needs or incomplete understanding of the technology's capabilities, conflicts with the optimal long-term deployment strategy. The challenge lies in balancing urgent requests with the need for a robust, scalable, and compliant storage delivery solution. Misinterpreting or overreacting to this feedback can lead to suboptimal architecture, increased technical debt, and potential regulatory non-compliance if the chosen implementation deviates from established best practices or specific data handling mandates. The professional challenge is to translate subjective feedback into objective technical requirements and then align those with the technical realities and regulatory landscape. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a structured, data-driven validation of the stakeholder feedback against the Riverbed storage delivery solutions capabilities and the relevant regulatory framework. This means conducting a thorough technical assessment to understand the root cause of the perceived performance issues, and then evaluating potential solutions within the context of the exam's jurisdiction. For the 599-01 Riverbed Certified Solutions Professional Storage Delivery Exam, this would involve referencing the specific guidelines and best practices for deploying Riverbed solutions in a manner that ensures data integrity, security, and availability, all while adhering to any applicable data residency or privacy regulations within the exam's specified jurisdiction. This approach prioritizes a deep understanding of the technology and its operational environment before committing to a specific implementation path, ensuring that the chosen solution is both effective and compliant. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing a solution based solely on the immediate, unvalidated stakeholder feedback without a technical deep dive represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It risks deploying a solution that does not meet the underlying requirements, potentially leading to data corruption, security breaches, or performance degradation that could violate data protection regulations. Furthermore, it bypasses the due diligence required to ensure the solution aligns with the exam's jurisdiction-specific compliance mandates, such as those related to data handling, retention, or access controls. Adopting a quick-fix solution that addresses the symptom rather than the root cause, without considering the long-term implications or regulatory adherence, is also professionally unsound. This approach often leads to a fragmented or inefficient storage delivery architecture, increasing the likelihood of future failures and non-compliance. It demonstrates a lack of foresight and a failure to uphold the professional responsibility of designing and implementing resilient and compliant systems. Ignoring the feedback entirely and proceeding with a predefined implementation without acknowledging or investigating the stakeholder concerns is unprofessional and can damage stakeholder relationships. While the feedback might be misdirected, its existence signals a potential gap in understanding or expectation that needs to be addressed. A failure to engage with stakeholders, even to explain why their initial request might not be the optimal solution, can lead to a perception of unresponsiveness and a lack of commitment to their operational needs, indirectly impacting the perceived effectiveness and compliance of the deployed solution. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a systematic approach to implementation challenges. This involves 1. Active listening and validation. Thoroughly understand stakeholder concerns and validate them through data and technical analysis. 2. Root cause analysis. Identify the underlying technical or operational issues driving the feedback. 3. Solution evaluation. Assess potential solutions against technical requirements, performance goals, scalability needs, and crucially, the specific regulatory framework of the exam's jurisdiction. 4. Risk assessment. Evaluate the risks associated with each potential solution, including compliance risks. 5. Stakeholder communication. Clearly communicate findings, proposed solutions, and rationale to stakeholders, managing expectations and ensuring buy-in. This iterative process ensures that solutions are not only technically sound, but also ethically responsible and compliant. Question 15. The efficiency study reveals that a specific storage delivery pathway is experiencing suboptimal performance, impacting application responsiveness. As a Riverbed certified solutions professional, you are tasked with addressing this. The study suggests that a proprietary caching mechanism within the Riverbed solution might be misconfigured or inadequately sized for the current workload. Which of the following represents the most professionally sound and compliant approach to resolving this implementation challenge? Option A. Disable the proprietary caching mechanism entirely, as it appears to be the source of the performance issue, and rely solely on the underlying network and storage infrastructure for delivery. Option B. Immediately implement a widely recognized third-party caching acceleration tool that has shown success in similar environments, assuming it will integrate seamlessly with the Riverbed storage delivery infrastructure. Option C. Make ad hoc adjustments to the caching parameters based on forum discussions and anecdotal evidence from other IT professionals, without consulting official documentation or engaging with vendor support. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive review of the existing Riverbed storage delivery configuration, consulting official Riverbed documentation, and engaging with Riverbed support to understand the nuances of the proprietary caching mechanism and its optimal tuning parameters for the identified workload. The correct answer is B. Immediately implement a widely recognized third-party caching acceleration tool that has shown success in similar environments, assuming it will integrate seamlessly with the Riverbed storage delivery infrastructure. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between optimizing storage delivery performance and adhering to Riverbed's specific implementation guidelines for the 599-01 certification. The efficiency study highlights a potential bottleneck, but the proposed solution must be evaluated not just for its technical merit, but also for its compliance with the established framework. Careful judgment is required to balance immediate performance gains with long-term maintainability and adherence to best practices as defined by the certification. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough understanding of the existing Riverbed storage delivery architecture and its configuration before implementing any changes. This aligns with the principles of responsible system administration and the implicit requirements of a professional certification, which emphasizes a systematic and documented approach. By consulting the official Riverbed documentation and engaging with the support team, the professional demonstrates due diligence, ensuring that any proposed solution is not only effective, but also compliant with the vendor's recommended practices, and potentially avoids unsupported configurations that could lead to future issues or void warranty/support. This proactive stance minimizes risk and ensures the integrity of the deployed solution. An incorrect approach that involves immediately deploying a third-party optimization tool without prior validation against the Riverbed framework fails to acknowledge the specialized nature of the certified solution. This could lead to conflicts with existing Riverbed components, performance degradation in other areas, or unsupported configurations. Ethically, it bypasses the due diligence expected of a certified professional who should be leveraging their expertise within the defined ecosystem. Another incorrect approach, such as making undocumented configuration changes based on anecdotal evidence, is professionally unsound. It introduces significant risk of instability, makes troubleshooting impossible, and violates the principles of change management and accountability. This lack of transparency and rigor is a direct contravention of professional standards and the spirit of a certification that values structured implementation. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the problem statement and the constraints imposed by the specific technology and certification. This involves prioritizing information gathering from authoritative sources, vendor documentation, support, and then evaluating potential solutions against these constraints. A structured approach, including impact analysis, risk assessment, and a phased implementation plan with rollback capabilities, is crucial. When faced with performance issues, the first step should always be to confirm that the existing implementation is correctly configured and optimized, according to vendor best practices, before considering external or undocumented modifications. Question 16. Implementation of a new high-performance storage delivery solution for a critical trading platform requires careful consideration of data integrity and regulatory compliance. Which approach best mitigates risks associated with this deployment? Option A. Implement the solution in production with minimal testing, assuming the vendor's assurances of compatibility are sufficient. Option B. Perform only basic functional testing and then deploy the solution, relying on vendor support for any immediate post-deployment problems. Option C. Immediately deploy the new solution to production to leverage its performance benefits as quickly as possible, with post-deployment monitoring for issues. Option D. Conduct extensive pre-deployment testing in a staging environment that mirrors production, followed by a phased rollout with rollback capabilities and comprehensive documentation. The correct answer is D. Conduct extensive pre-deployment testing in a staging environment that mirrors production, followed by a phased rollout with rollback capabilities and comprehensive documentation. Explanation: scenario analysis. Implementing a new storage delivery solution within a regulated financial services environment presents significant challenges. The primary challenge lies in balancing the need for enhanced performance and efficiency with stringent data integrity, security, and compliance requirements. Any misstep can lead to data breaches, regulatory penalties, and reputational damage. The pressure to deliver a solution quickly without compromising these critical aspects necessitates a meticulous and well-informed approach. Professionals must navigate complex technical requirements alongside a robust understanding of the applicable regulatory landscape. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a phased implementation strategy that prioritizes comprehensive testing and validation within a controlled environment before full production rollout. This includes rigorous performance benchmarking against established baselines, security vulnerability assessments, and data integrity checks. Adherence to established change management protocols, including thorough documentation and stakeholder sign-off at each stage, is paramount. This methodology ensures that the new storage delivery solution meets technical objectives while demonstrably satisfying all regulatory mandates for data protection, availability, and auditability. This aligns with the principles of due diligence and risk management expected within the financial services sector, ensuring that client data and operational continuity are not jeopardized. Incorrect approaches analysis. Proceeding with a direct, big bang migration without adequate pre-deployment testing or a rollback plan introduces unacceptable risks. This approach fails to account for potential unforeseen technical incompatibilities or performance degradation, directly contravening regulatory expectations for system stability and data integrity. It also bypasses essential change control processes, which are critical for auditability and accountability. Deploying the solution with only basic functional testing, neglecting performance tuning and security hardening, is also professionally unsound. This overlooks the specific demands of a high-transaction financial environment where performance is directly linked to service delivery and regulatory compliance, e.g., timely reporting. Security vulnerabilities left unaddressed create a direct pathway for data breaches, a severe regulatory and ethical failure. Implementing the solution without comprehensive documentation and stakeholder approval, even if technically functional, undermines transparency and accountability. Regulators require clear audit trails for all system changes. The absence of proper documentation and sign-offs prevents effective oversight and makes it impossible to demonstrate compliance with data governance and security policies. Professional reasoning. Professionals must adopt a risk-based approach, prioritizing the protection of sensitive data and the continuity of critical operations. This involves a structured implementation process that includes thorough planning, rigorous testing in representative environments, phased deployment, and continuous monitoring. Understanding and integrating regulatory requirements into every stage of the implementation lifecycle is not optional but a fundamental professional obligation. When faced with implementation challenges, professionals should always default to a methodology that maximizes control, minimizes risk, and ensures demonstrable compliance. Question 17. The performance metrics show a significant and unexpected drop in storage delivery latency for a critical application just days before a major service launch. While the immediate temptation is to proceed with the launch, assuming the metrics are a positive anomaly, what is the most professionally responsible course of action? Option A. Immediately initiate a deep dive investigation into the latency drop, involving relevant storage and network teams to identify the root cause and assess its impact before proceeding with the launch. Option B. Inform management that the metrics are unreliable and recommend delaying the launch until a full system audit can be completed without providing specific details on the anomaly. Option C. manually adjust the performance metrics to reflect historical averages, thereby removing the anomaly and ensuring the launch proceeds without perceived issues. Option D. Proceed with the service launch as scheduled, documenting the anomaly for post-launch review, assuming it represents an unexpected but beneficial improvement. Correct answer is A. Immediately initiate a deep dive investigation into the latency drop, involving relevant storage and network teams, to identify the root cause and assess its impact before proceeding with the launch. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it involves a conflict between immediate business needs and the long-term integrity of storage delivery performance monitoring. The pressure to meet a critical deadline for a new service launch, coupled with the discovery of anomalies in performance metrics that could delay this launch, creates a situation where expediency might be tempting over thoroughness. Careful judgment is required to balance the urgency of the business objective with the ethical obligation to provide accurate and reliable data. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes data integrity and transparency, which are foundational to trust and effective decision-making in IT service delivery. By thoroughly investigating the anomalies, identifying their root cause, and then communicating the findings and proposed remediation, the professional upholds the principles of accuracy and accountability. This aligns with the implicit ethical guidelines of professional conduct, which demand honesty and diligence in reporting and problem-solving, ensuring that subsequent decisions are based on factual information, not assumptions or manipulated data. This approach also safeguards the reputation of the IT team and the organization by demonstrating a commitment to quality and reliability. An incorrect approach that involves downplaying or ignoring the anomalies to meet the deadline would represent a significant ethical failure. This would be a breach of professional integrity by knowingly allowing potentially flawed data to influence critical business decisions, which could lead to service degradation, customer dissatisfaction, and financial repercussions. It also violates the principle of accountability, as the team would be failing to identify and address issues that impact service delivery. Another incorrect approach, such as unilaterally deciding to fix the metrics without proper investigation or documentation, would be a failure of transparency and due process. This could lead to masking underlying problems, making future troubleshooting more difficult, and potentially violating internal audit or compliance requirements if such actions are not properly recorded and justified. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with acknowledging the observed data, the performance metrics. The next step is to treat any anomalies as potential indicators of underlying issues that require investigation, rather than dismissing them. This investigation should be systematic and documented. Once the root cause is identified, the professional must assess the impact of the anomaly on the current situation and future operations. Communication with relevant stakeholders about the findings, the impact, and the proposed remediation plan is crucial. Finally, the decision on how to proceed should be based on a balanced consideration of the urgency, the impact of the anomaly, and the integrity of the data. Question 18. The audit findings indicate that a specific storage delivery performance monitoring feature within the Riverbed solution has been intermittently disabled to reduce perceived licensing overhead. The IT operations team is now considering permanently disabling this feature to achieve ongoing cost savings, despite the potential for reduced visibility into storage latency and throughput metrics. What is the most professionally responsible course of action regarding this monitoring feature? Option A. Conduct a thorough impact assessment to understand the feature's contribution to overall storage delivery performance visibility and its role in meeting service level agreements, and then make a documented decision based on the findings, potentially exploring alternative licensing models if cost is a significant concern. Option B. Permanently disable the feature to realize immediate cost savings, as the core functionality of the storage delivery solution remains intact. Option C. Argue that the disabled feature is not critical to the primary function of the storage delivery solution, and therefore its absence will not significantly impact operations. Option D. Defer the decision to disable the feature until the next fiscal year's budget review, allowing for more comprehensive financial planning. Correct answer is A. Conduct a thorough impact assessment to understand the feature's contribution to overall storage delivery performance visibility and its role in meeting service level agreements, and then make a documented decision based on the findings, potentially exploring alternative licensing models if cost is a significant concern. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the conflict between immediate cost-saving pressures and the long-term integrity of data delivery performance monitoring. The auditor's findings highlight a potential gap in the comprehensive visibility of storage delivery performance, which is critical for ensuring service-level agreements, SLAs, are met and for proactive troubleshooting. The pressure to reduce operational expenses by disabling certain monitoring features, even if seemingly minor, could lead to a degradation of service quality that is not immediately apparent, thus violating the spirit of responsible IT management and potentially regulatory compliance if data delivery performance is a regulated metric. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes the integrity of the monitoring infrastructure and adherence to established performance baselines. Disabling features without a thorough impact assessment and documented justification, especially when facing an audit, is a breach of professional responsibility. Maintaining comprehensive monitoring ensures that Riverbed solutions are functioning optimally, that potential issues are identified before they impact end users or critical business operations, and that accurate data is available for performance analysis and reporting. This aligns with the ethical obligation to provide reliable and performant IT services. An incorrect approach of disabling the specific storage delivery performance monitoring feature to reduce licensing costs without a formal change control process or a clear understanding of its impact on overall service delivery visibility is professionally unacceptable. This action could lead to undetected performance degradations, missed SLAs, and an inability to provide accurate performance data during future audits or troubleshooting efforts. It demonstrates a disregard for the importance of comprehensive monitoring and a failure to uphold professional standards in IT service delivery. Another incorrect approach, which is to defer the decision until the next budget cycle, is also professionally unsound. While budget considerations are important, they should not compromise the ability to maintain essential monitoring capabilities, especially when an audit has raised concerns. Delaying action on a potential performance visibility issue leaves the organization vulnerable to service disruptions and inaccurate performance reporting. A third incorrect approach, which is to argue that the disabled feature is not critical to the core functionality of the storage delivery solution, is a misinterpretation of the purpose of comprehensive monitoring. Even seemingly peripheral monitoring features contribute to the overall health and performance picture. Dismissing their importance without a data-driven analysis of their impact on service delivery is a failure of due diligence. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough risk assessment. When faced with a request or pressure to disable monitoring features, professionals must 1. Understand the specific function and criticality of the feature in question. 2. Assess the potential impact of disabling it on service delivery, performance monitoring, and compliance. 3. Consult relevant documentation, best practices, and vendor recommendations. 4. Follow formal change management procedures, including impact analysis and stakeholder approval. 5. Document all decisions and justifications. If cost reduction is the driver, explore alternative solutions that do not compromise essential monitoring capabilities. Question 19. Market research demonstrates that clients often have preconceived notions about storage delivery configuration based on past experiences or limited information. As a Riverbed Certified Solutions Professional RCSB, engaged in optimizing a client's storage delivery performance, you are presented with specific configuration recommendations from the client's internal IT team. These recommendations, while seemingly straightforward, raise concerns about potential performance bottlenecks and inefficient resource utilization based on your initial assessment using Riverbed tools. The client's team is insistent on implementing their proposed configuration. What is the most professionally responsible course of action? Option A. Propose a completely different, innovative configuration that you believe is superior, without extensive validation against the client's specific environment or their stated preferences, to showcase your advanced expertise. Option B. Conduct a comprehensive performance analysis using Riverbed diagnostic tools to validate or refute the client's proposed configuration, and then present objective findings and recommendations to the client, explaining the technical rationale and potential implications of both their preferred approach and your optimized solution. Option C. Immediately implement the client's recommended configuration to ensure client satisfaction and avoid potential conflict, assuming their internal team has valid reasons for their choices. Option D. Politely decline the project, stating that you cannot proceed if the client is unwilling to defer entirely to your technical judgment without any input. The correct answer is B. Conduct a comprehensive performance analysis using Riverbed diagnostic tools to validate or refute the client's proposed configuration, and then present objective findings and recommendations to the client, explaining the technical rationale and potential implications of both their preferred approach and your optimized solution. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge where a Riverbed Certified Solutions Professional (RCSP) is tasked with optimizing storage delivery performance for a client. The client's internal IT team has provided specific, albeit potentially suboptimal, configuration recommendations. The RCSP must balance the client's stated preferences with their professional obligation to deliver the most effective and efficient storage solution, adhering to best practices and potentially industry standards that might supersede client-driven, less informed choices. The challenge lies in navigating the client relationship while upholding technical integrity and avoiding the implementation of a solution that could lead to future performance issues or security vulnerabilities, even if it aligns with the client's initial, possibly misinformed direction. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough, data-driven analysis of the client's current storage delivery environment and the proposed configuration. This includes leveraging Riverbed's diagnostic tools to identify bottlenecks, assess performance metrics, and simulate the impact of the proposed changes. The RCSP should then present a clear, objective report to the client, detailing the findings, explaining the technical rationale behind recommended adjustments, and highlighting the potential risks or drawbacks of the client's preferred configuration. This approach upholds professional integrity by prioritizing the client's long-term benefit and the optimal functioning of their systems, aligning with the ethical duty to provide competent and unbiased professional advice. It also implicitly adheres to the spirit of Riverbed certification, which emphasizes expertise in delivering high-performance storage solutions. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing the client's recommendations without independent verification or further analysis is professionally unacceptable. This approach fails to exercise due diligence and professional judgment. It risks deploying a suboptimal configuration that could lead to performance degradation, increased operational costs, or security vulnerabilities, thereby failing the client and potentially violating the implicit trust placed in the RCSP expertise. This could be seen as a failure to act in the client's best interest, a core ethical principle. Proposing alternative solutions that are not directly supported by diagnostic data or are based on personal preference rather than objective analysis is also problematic. While innovation is valued, it must be grounded in empirical evidence and tailored to the specific client environment. Presenting unvalidated alternatives without a clear technical justification risks introducing unnecessary complexity or instability, again failing to meet the professional standard of providing evidence-based recommendations. Ignoring the client's input entirely and proceeding with a solution the RCSP deems best without any attempt at communication or explanation would be unprofessional and detrimental to the client relationship. While the RCSP technical judgment is crucial, client collaboration and transparency are essential for successful project outcomes and maintaining trust. This approach neglects the interpersonal and consultative aspects of professional service. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this field must adopt a consultative and data-driven decision-making process. This involves 1. Thoroughly understanding the client's stated needs and constraints. 2. Employing diagnostic tools and methodologies to objectively assess the current state and potential impacts of proposed changes. 3. Analyzing findings to identify optimal solutions that balance performance, security, and cost-effectiveness. 4. Communicating findings and recommendations clearly and transparently to the client, explaining the technical rationale and potential implications of different choices. 5. Collaborating with the client to reach an informed decision that aligns with their business objectives and the RCSP professional expertise. This iterative process ensures that recommendations are technically sound, ethically responsible, and aligned with client expectations. Question 20. Investigation of a client's urgent request for immediate access to sensitive historical storage logs, bypassing the standard multi-factor authentication and approval workflow, presents a critical juncture. The client, a senior executive, insists that the delay in accessing these logs could have significant financial implications for the company. The professional is aware that deviating from the established protocol, while potentially faster, would bypass crucial audit trails and security verification steps mandated by internal governance and industry best practices for data access. What is the most professionally responsible course of action? Option A. Attempt to find a technical shortcut to provide the client with the requested data quickly, without formally documenting the deviation or seeking explicit authorization for the bypass. Option B. Lightly but firmly explain the necessity of adhering to the established security protocols and the standard approval process for accessing sensitive data, while providing an estimated timeframe for when access can be granted through the proper channels. Option C. Inform the client that the request cannot be fulfilled due to the security protocols and suggest they find an alternative method to obtain the information they need. Option D. Immediately grant the client access to the logs as requested, prioritizing the client's perceived urgency and potential financial impact over established security procedures. The correct answer is B. Politely but firmly explain the necessity of adhering to the established security protocols and the standard approval process for accessing sensitive data, while providing an estimated timeframe for when access can be granted through the proper channels. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a client's desire for immediate, potentially unauthorized, access to sensitive data and the professional's obligation to adhere to established security protocols and data privacy regulations. The pressure to deliver quickly, coupled with the client's perceived authority, can lead to a temptation to bypass necessary security measures. This requires careful judgment to balance client needs with legal and ethical responsibilities. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes adherence to the established regulatory framework and internal security policies. This involves clearly communicating the necessity of following documented procedures for data access, even if it introduces a delay. This aligns with the principles of data integrity, security, and compliance, which are paramount in the storage delivery domain. Professionals are ethically and legally bound to protect client data and ensure its access is controlled and auditable, as mandated by regulations governing data handling and privacy. Upholding these standards demonstrates professional integrity and builds long-term trust. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves immediately granting the client access without verification. This violates data privacy regulations and internal security policies by bypassing authorization and auditing mechanisms. It creates a significant security risk, potentially exposing sensitive information to unauthorized individuals and leaving no audit trail of the access, which is a direct contravention of compliance requirements. Another incorrect approach is to attempt to find a workaround that circumvents security protocols without proper authorization or documentation. This is ethically dubious and legally risky. Such actions can lead to data breaches, system vulnerabilities, and severe penalties for both the professional and the organization. It undermines the integrity of the security infrastructure and demonstrates a disregard for established best practices and regulatory mandates. A third incorrect approach is to ignore the client's request and proceed with standard procedures without any communication. While adhering to procedures is correct, failing to communicate the rationale or the expected timeline to the client can lead to dissatisfaction and damage the professional relationship. Ethically, professionals should strive for clear communication and manage client expectations, even when enforcing necessary protocols. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the request and its potential implications. This involves identifying any conflicts with existing policies, regulations, and ethical guidelines. The next step is to clearly communicate the established procedures and the reasons for their existence, emphasizing the importance of data security and compliance. If a deviation is absolutely necessary and justifiable, it must be pursued through the proper channels for approval, ensuring all actions are documented and authorized. This systematic approach ensures that client needs are addressed responsibly, without compromising security or regulatory adherence.